And welcome back to Sydney Summit Live, everybody. This is day 2, well, day 3?
Day 3.
Day 3 with Innovation
But it's
Day.
always day 1.
It's always day 1.
It could be day 4 if you also
Oh my
the
gosh,
summit.
very confusing. I'm here with 2 amazing co-hosts. My name is Chris Howard. I'm a Solutions Architect Manager here for the New South Wales team in Sydney, and I'm joined by
Dr. Pete.
the legend.
Thank you. And I'm the Head of Solution Architecture for Australia and New Zealand. And I'm also joined by...
You are joined by Dean Samuels. I'm the Head of Solutions Architecture for Hong Kong and Taiwan.
So we're all architects.
Yes, we are.
There you go.
Yes, we are. And we were just talking about the fact last year, I think we did about 20 Twitch Live sessions.
Yeah.
This year we're going to go 70. We
Wow.
have 24 more sessions for you today, counting this one.
Yep, absolutely jam-packed, full of lots of information, interactive. Remember, post your questions
And
in the chat.
prizes.
And prizes to give away.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep,
So make sure you're asking questions. Every time you guys ask us a question via the moderators, somebody on the floor is going to throw a ball
gonna
at
throw
us. So
something
the
at
more
us.
balls
I am
that come, the more questions.
Still objecting to this plan. Still objecting to this plan. So, keynote. Amazing keynote.
Before we get to the keynote, though, I'm sure the number one question that's going to be asked.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
what
right.
is this?
All right.
Dresses you.
All right. So you weren't here. So
Right.
every year I participate in an Australian charity called Froctober, which raises money for cancer research. I wore a different dress every day of the month in
Right.
October.
Okay.
And I actually sent it around to AWS, and I said, if you guys donate, I will make a special AWS dress.
Right, so it's one of a kind.
So yes,
one
so
of a
the
kind.
fabric was printed on spoon flour. I sewed it myself. Of course, ladies, it has pockets. Yeah.
Very important,
There
especially
you
getting mic'd up.
Yeah, of course. Very handy, very handy. Okay, now
Okay.
can we talk about Ollie?
Okay, let's get
Oh my
into
gosh.
some.
All right, you start us off, Dean.
All right, so we had an awesome morning of keynote speakers come in. We'll go through some of the very innovative and technologically advanced things that companies are able to accomplish with AWS technology. Of course, we had, as per usual, Ollie.
Our very own
Our
Ollie.
very own
Olivier,
Ollie,
yeah.
Olivier
Olivier
Klein,
Klein.
our Head of Emerging Technologies for APAC, coordinating events this morning and starting off with a theme that's really close to all of our heart around technology. You know, that the world of technology is actually changing. He spoke a little bit about artificial intelligence.
Yes, yes.
And so in the artificial intelligence world, he was talking about how it's really disrupting and encouraging innovation in the medical industry. And he was talking about customers like GE Healthcare, who are using artificial intelligence, specifically computer vision, to actually analyze X-rays and identify suspected issues in these X-rays and MRI scans.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah,
We have a question from the floor,
Already.
by the way. The ball is actually plastic, so if it hits us, we're in trouble. The question is, how do you eat food and work at the same time,
Is that
Chris?
from the moderators? Is that from the moderators?
I don't know, but,
oh, poor our moderators are working hard back there.
Yeah, but what we do is actually we're sticking in a bit of food every time we're off stage.
Yes, we really
Including
are.
bathroom breaks,
It's
which can be
important
quite
to
tricky.
Keep your energy
Right.
up for
Oh, yeah,
this.
absolutely.
But Olivier, I always love hearing from him. He's so inspirational. True story, one of the guys on my team, his career goal is become Olivier Klein.
I think that'll be the
That
goal
is
of a
his
few
actual
people.
career
if you
goal.
ask them.
And we have food, by the way, so thank you, team.
Oh, no, it's very good, very good.
Hey, what I thought was really cool about that, by the way, was the GAN piece about teeth.
Yeah.
Right, and all those aspects
Is it
using
custom printing?
Can you maybe explain that a bit more? What do
yeah,
you
by
mean
the
by
way,
that?
GAN's it's a bit of a branch inside AI and ML. It's
Generative adversarial
serial
network.
networks. Very
Yes,
cool.
yes.
And GANs have got some really interesting use cases. What they are useful for is actually coming up with things that relate to something that you're trying to create. So in other words, in this case, people are able to create teeth, right? And how do you create a tooth? Well, you want to create it to be similar to your other teeth, but not identical, right? So it has a purpose, and GANs are also used for doing a lot of creative things around creating structures, like a bird, for example, wing, or the aerodynamic, fluid dynamics, really interesting area, and a really cool example, and we had our friends from EA here yesterday. What you can also do with GANs is actually take a picture of maybe one game, and then say, I want to apply the skins or the look and feel of this game into this other game, right? And what it will do is in real time, it'll actually recreate the one game in the other. So there's some amazing potential for using AI, and GANs in particular, to be able to recreate things that look identical or similar to. You can turn a horse into a zebra, you can have a two-headed zebra, two-headed horse, really unusual things, but they look realistic.
It's like those things where they generate pictures of celebrities that have never existed. You know, they're
Precisely.
people that look really real but
Right.
never existed.
Right.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
I also remember, I saw you talked about Gojek delivering prescriptions.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Gojek is amazing, and they use AWS. They've written blog posts about using us.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about medical assistance at your fingertips, right?
Yeah.
With the likes of Gojek, with those prescriptions being delivered. We've got some customers in Indonesia that are using the technology in the health and human services side. It was all about Internet of Things and how everything is going to be connected. That was Ollie's theme, and he was talking about some of the architecture around Internet of Things and things like breaking monolithic down to microservices as well. When we talk about modern day
Yeah, well, we
application
talk about
architectures,
modern
right?
apps.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
a modern app? And he explained it.
Yeah,
pretty much.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so what did he explain? He spoke about a few concepts.
you were covering,
I was
it
there,
really
okay.
well there.
So basically, he was talking about how you have these monolithic legacy apps, and it's very hard to innovate and change and iterate on these type of applications because it is this one huge beast, so to speak. And so looking at how you can actually break these this monolithic app into its simplest form, into what we call microservices. So the ability to actually break it down into these single processes or single applications. And so using various technologies and frameworks, SDKs, and then also APIs to allow for that decoupling. And that allows that rapid iteration and innovation.
And you talked
through
about
microservices.
serverless as options or containers as alternatives. There's in a Fargate, for example, one of our services, which is basically serverless containers.
Yep.
Right? So all of those give you choice, and obviously as a developer, who defines the future and creates it hopefully for your customers and your own organization, you can actually leverage many different tools to get the job done. So again, creativity, inspiration, delivering value.
When you want your devs to be writing business logic, not doing all that undifferentiated
plumbing,
heavy.
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
No.
And the interesting thing, he was talking about the evolution of compute in AWS, where we started with virtual machines or the Amazon EC2 instances. It's still a very popular service for us. It's used in many variety of use cases. We have over 180 EC2 instances that customers can actually choose from.
That's a lot of
for their
choice, right?
specific-
That's
Yes,
a
exactly.
truckload.
But then we start to see the popularity grow around containers and providing services like Amazon ECS, the Elastic Container Service, and also now the Kubernetes, Managed Kubernetes Service, EKS, which allows for, which allows for the ability for our customers to actually deploy and orchestrate their containers on hardware, on infrastructure. But we've actually made it a lot easier for them to do it through Amazon Fargate, where customers don't actually have to worry about the underlying hardware, and all they're focusing is on the actual containers themselves, and therefore then the applications.
He
All right,
talked about-
question
All right,
from the
all right,
audience.
all right.
This is Freddie Jr. He's actually asking, if you would be any AWS service, which would you like to be and why?
Oh, definitely a Lambda. I'm a
Would it
big
be
Lambda.
Lambda?
Yeah, Lambda.
What's Lambda, maybe?
Lambda, you were just talking about serverless.
Yes.
So I have dipped my toe into writing a few serverless apps.
Right.
I go to a lot of meetups in Sydney, so I actually wrote a little serverless app that generates an iCal feed for myself with all the meetups that are happening, so I can
Right.
see what's happening in the tech community. Super easy. I've also used it to build Alexa skills.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't have to, I just like writing the code. I don't want to worry about servers and all
Right.
of that plumbing.
Right.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. Dean, who would you be?
I would love to be identity and access management.
I am.
Because I have the power for everything, and I am everywhere. You can't get to any other service without going
It's a
through
little
me.
scary, actually.
Interesting.
How about
Well,
you?
I'd love to be the auto-scaling group.
Auto-scaling,
I feel
right.
like my life is always going in 20 different directions, so I'd love to have the AWS
that
cloning
makes-
service of myself.
Right,
So
right.
being an auto-scaling
So
group,
multiple Docker
scaling
peaks.
out, multiple Docker
Makes a
peaks,
lot of
that's
sense,
all in
actually.
parallel universes.
Look out well, look out well.
Would be fun. Question from the audience, by the way. What color socks is Dr. Pete wearing? Well, let me check.
I don't think you can get your foot up there. No. Oh my
Did you
God.
stretch? Did
Black
you
and
stretch?
white. I may pull a muscle to do it.
Yeah,
Des.
yeah, yeah.
So black and white socks.
Black
Thank you
and
for
white
that
socks.
question.
Oh,
All
okay.
right.
Right. So maybe let's get back to what
Yeah.
Ollie
No,
spoke
sure.
about.
Yeah.
So the next thing you focused on is around developers. What are we
Yes.
doing in the area of developers? And he spoke a little bit about AWS step functions. And I know you're a keen developer, Dr. Pete, so maybe tell the audience what step functions is all about.
So step functions are really, really cool. I mean, the idea of writing a serverless function is awesome. But by the way, when you have a very complex application, you call an API, you need to wait for a response and put some additional logic into it. So step functions are really great because if you roll it back to the computer science concept, these are finite state machines, right? Or mechanisms. So for example, if you're doing workflows and you send an email out and need an approval, someone hits a hyperlink to say approve, I don't know, a purchase order, or yes, you can have leave this next week after the summit to recover from being on stage for 4 days
I'm doing
straight.
that, I'm doing
All
that.
those aspects. these are awesome because they can actually stop and halt your code, wait till the next step gets processed, and then go back to activation, as opposed to sitting there being busy waiting, doing stuff. So you only pay for what you use with serverless, and it's a perfect build on top and add-on for collectively controlling much more complex applications than just single lambda functions.
Yeah, especially in those distributed complex systems, right? And you actually made a good point there, Dr. Pete, how it's not only just for interaction between applications, but also the human identities that might be in that particular
Human
workflow.
workflows,
Yeah, exactly. And then we spoke a little bit about databases, Chris.
I mean, he showed polyglot persistence, which is, we're having a lot of conversations in our territory and our team in New South Wales right now with customers around choosing the right database for the right job. We actually ran an event recently on database freedom. There's some great talks. There's a great talk this afternoon called Choose the Right Tool for the Right Job, which is going to walk you through some of our database offerings.
So favorite database?
Oh, favorite database. Dynamo. I'm actually becoming a bit of a Dynamo fangirl.
You're a Dynamo girl.
All about key value store, yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay. I would have to say Aurora. Aurora, really changing the game in the data warehousing, or actually in the commercial database, space. Amazon Redshift, of course, the data warehousing technology. Aurora, our fastest growing service to date, really a game changer for a lot of our enterprise and also other customers where they want to move away from some of the traditional commercial databases.
Cool. I'm going to go Graph and maybe even Quantum DB. I'm a very progressive kind of a guy.
Right.
I think Quantum is cool, right? You get to find out exactly what's happened. So if you were an IAM as a service, sorry, I got to catch the ball. If you're making changes, wouldn't it be great if the database was immutable? You couldn't go back and change it. Well, Quantum DB is perfect for that, right?
Awesome.
A change has been made, it's non-reputable, no one's going to be able to say, actually, you can change this. No, it's locked in, it's done forever.
Right, absolutely.
Cool. What's the question?
Well, so it's very evident to me that Mr. Durance has not been watching the live stream because what's with the bow tie, Dr. Pete? We've covered this every day, haven't we?
A little bit. So as you may know, so Chris has got, she's dressed by Chris.
Dressed
by Chris. I'm actually dressed by Okta. By the way, we've got this tradition where we walk around the summit floor collecting cool toys and gadgets and all sorts of things. And I got to the Okta stand and all they had was a bow tie and I went, I'll take that.
I'll do, yeah.
So thank you, Okta team, right over there.
And he's actually been wearing it the whole week. So even when he's been off stage, he's been roaming around, and also at other events where he's actually been wearing it as well.
I just think he likes the attention.
Did you really?
He liked it and asked the question. and also, don't forget, if you are here at the event, to come down to the Summit Live stage. We'll have partners coming in throughout the day. They'll actually be giving some gifts and prizes away, I hear.
We have a really cool photo frame as well. Take a picture, put it on social. We'd love to see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what was next in Ollie's keynote? I think he was talking a little bit about security.
Security.
And it's important to remember that security is job zero for us.
And I immediately pulled up the app on my phone because we have a whole security tracks worth of talks today. Really good stuff happening if you're here.
Yep.
But yeah, we were talking about...
I have a question. I'm going to interrupt you guys and say, couple of questions. So Timmy Funk, where is Jeff Bezos? Do we know where Jeff Bezos is?
I have no idea.
Like a trivia question?
Do we have a tracker on
This
him?
could be a great segue into GPS tracking, which we're going to come back to shortly.
Exactly.
The other question, which is from you, number 9, that do customers use EC2 follow the Pareto's law? Which, for those that don't know what that is actually the 80-20 law. Do customers follow it? And I don't know what the utilization patterns are for every customer, but when you think about what we do on EC2, by the way, is when you launch an instance, we will...
Hey, look at that.
When we launch an instance, we will launch it in the AZ you've told us, and we will actually try to launch it on the least utilized physical infrastructure. And the idea is that we will launch all over the place, and that way we evenly distribute the load across our entire infrastructure. So I hope that answers your questions, you number 9. Thank you for that. Guys, keep the questions coming. Over back to the show.
We do have a question.
Another one, right?
And the question is, what's your favorite dog toy?
Favorite dog toy?
Dog toy?
Dog
Or
toy.
just dog toy?
Dog toy.
I'll be honest,
I have
stick.
cats. I have cats.
I love dogs.
Yeah.
I don't have dogs.
Cats, okay, sorry.
I'll be traditional, good old stick you find while you're walking.
Right.
Pick one up, throw it.
Okay, on security, Casada.
Back to the
Sam from Casada was a customer on stage.
Yeah.
That was really fascinating.
It was
talking
really
with.
fascinating.
Yeah.
And so it's all about being able to protect web applications and websites against these high traffic sites. And there's some interesting statistics that they actually went through about a customer, a real world customer of theirs that they termed Acme Corp, obviously for secrecy reasons, but talking about when they analysed the actual traffic that was coming into that site over a month, they actually identified that 70% of that traffic was actually from bots.
And they only thought it was 20%.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
really.
And so producing these services and products that allows customers to block or defend against this type of screen scraping and bots that actually might be accessing their websites, maybe their competition, taking away their own content rather than paying customers.
But I love the way they do it, right? I mean, it's so cheap to make a web connection and scrape a website, right? It's almost virtually free, right? And what they do is they reverse proxy your site. They're compatible with the AWS CloudFront and your ELBs and so forth. And what they do is they proxy those connections through, and they actually do some inspection on the browser to make sure it's not being puppeteered, so it's not Chrome, automated on scale. And what they also do is when they realize there are things that are nefarious going on and someone is scraping a site, they actually throw cryptographic challenges at the client, which means they can throttle the request. So if you are hitting the site with a million requests that you run through in 5 seconds, what they do is they incrementally add more complexity, which means the browser making the request actually has to run a compute job, and it gets more complicated over time, which slows down the actual attack. So I love the way they're actually pushing back on the attackers.
I saw somebody tweet that their takeaway from that talk was that people don't value their data as much as they should, and it's often trivially easy for somebody to come in and steal it.
When you publish your catalogs online, you're actually publicly exposing some really intimate information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we've got a question here from Fred Savage. Where is Kerry McRae?
Carrie's at the moderators table. She's one of our amazing moderators
Thank you so
today.
much,
working
Kerry.
hard back there.
Thank you, Kerry.
Working hard.
Love your work.
We got to talk
And
about.
Brett, shout out to Brett too. Thanks.
We got to talk about the Sharks,
Yeah, we
guys.
do.
We got to get to the Sharks.
Quick.
Quick talk about the Sharks. So this was rugby. No, first we had rugby Australia.
We did, yes.
Oh, like
one
so
of my
much to
favorites.
cover.
Favorite sessions for sure, as you can
kinda
probably
went over
tell.
my
I am
head
a
on the
rugby player.
rugby.
Well,
Yeah.
He's built like a rugby player.
Ex-rugby player.
Yeah.
The mind's into playing, the body's just not cooperating, but I digress. We had Rugby Australia coming in and talking about how technology is actually allowing Rugby Australia to provide a technology advantage to the Wallabies.
Yes.
And being able to use data collected from various games to actually optimize how players approach playing against other competitors. And one thing was really fascinating. Okay, we have the standard GPS trackers on players. They actually have monitors on terms of sleep patterns.
Military-grade sleep tracker. I don't know what that is.
But the fact that they also even analyze referees. So when referees are actually going to be appointed to a particular game, having a look at the strengths and weaknesses of the referees, are they what we call whistle happy?
That's amazing.
Rather than letting the game flow, but actually using that information to give that slight edge, especially what's needed in the professional
And this is
era.
a World Rugby year, right? Which means hopefully the Aussies are going to be competing quite well on a global stage. So and we need all the help we can get to all the Kiwis, all the New Zealanders that are watching. We're going to use any possibility that we can get our hands on.
We need it. World Cup this year, we need it.
The Kiwis were in the staff chat making fun already.
What was really good to see was we actually had Cathal Garvey, the head performance analyst from Rugby AU. It was actually an Irishman wearing a Wallabies shirt. Talking about how technology is going to give the Wallabies the advantage.
Total diversity in this part of the world, I'll tell you what.
I just love that diagram where he was relating a rugby team to like a software team,
right.
And they did sprints and they worked with UTS, which is a great local university.
A 12-week talk with UTS. How awesome is that? Super duper
really cool.
fast.
And we had AWS folks actually go down and work with the Australian Rugby Sevens as well.
Michelle from Women at Amazon. She was working really hard out there
Michelle
with
Hardy, we love your work.
Yes, we love you, Michelle.
Very well.
Yes.
Very well. All right,
Awesome.
so I've got a question here. What is the future of
Sports tech?
sports tech, I think it is?
I thought it wasn't just the players' performance. They were tracking like Moneyball type situation, of like which players are we going to, we've got 1 minute left, guys. We got to talk about the Sharks.
Sharks.
We got to talk about the Sharks.
So we've had folks talking about an awesome drone. What's it called, by the way? It was Ben from the Ripper Group, and they've got drones. They've taken the D-Day drone design, they've added some customizations, which means that they can actually launch these things over beaches. And in Australia, a lot of things can bite you when you're swimming. So they can detect sharks, they can tell you stingrays are floating past you, they can detect swimmers. And what they do is if they find somebody in trouble, because they get pulled in a rip out into the ocean, these drones in 70 seconds from launch can actually go out and drop you essentially a mini life raft that they had to custom design, and then lots of iterations, like I think 15 generations worth of iterations on building a super small life raft. That was amazing.
Yeah, it's really leading from Australia as well, because we've got worldwide interest in the product, where they've customized customized these off-the-shelf drones by DJI and retrofitted it with things like being able to drop these life rafts and having speakers in them and other also, well actually even the appearance, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously there's a worry around drones flying on the beach, but that has a distinct color that Surf Lifesaving Australia and the Westpac helicopter has as well.
I was just picturing being out there in a rip and having a drone fly over. All right, so we're going to have to wrap it up.
Yep.
I just wanted to give a shout out to the Deep Racer League happening up on level 4. Looks like the best time so far, Australia, is 9 seconds. World record is 7 point something. So come on, Aussies, we need to work on that.
Absolutely.
And our next session today is going to be with one of the great startups from Startup Central. It's going to be with Code Lingo. So you guys will be on throughout the day. Come back and join us. We got lots of great sessions for you.
See you
Awesome.
soon.
Thanks a lot.
See you next time.